evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, that's the possible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakely will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
What's gone wrong? Hello. That's an ideal way to kickstart this. But hello, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL PSF1, or what's left of PSGL PSF1, because I'm feeling slightly lonely at the moment on the screen. Nobody alongside me. That should be changing at some point. But we are back after what's felt like an absolute age. I think it's been, 3 weeks, 4 weeks since we last had a race on a Monday. No more Monday Evening Madness for a while, but we are back, and I'm delighted to say we're back. We missed Madrid a week ago. We had a week off in between. Nobody wanted to do Madrid. We can understand why. Anyway, moving past that, this we've got the Austrian Grand Prix, which is technically round 5, although it's the 4th time that we've raced this season. The maths don't be mathsing. We're in an interesting situation with the game right now. But welcome in, everybody. Hopefully we're going to have some fun. The Austrian Grand Prix around the Red Bull Ring. Interesting circuit. Usually provides some pretty darn decent racing. So we'll just hang out. We'll have some fun. We've got some championship battles to talk about, although the top 2 in the championship aren't here this week, so that's going to make life even harder to work out what's going to go on. But we'll just have a blast, won't we, tonight? So welcome in, like I said, to everybody that's going to be joining us, whether you're racing or just watching along. We're going to hopefully have an absolute cracker of an Austrian Grand Prix. Where should we start? Let's start with the standings, because I mentioned that we've got a championship battle that's going to be interesting tonight, because Melwin Effman, coming off the back of 2 wins in a row, which feels like an absolute age ago in China and Spa, isn't here. Otsazito also not here, with 2 second places in a row behind Melwin Effman. That means that Finlay is the highest placed driver in the championship that is running tonight, the winner of the season opener in Silverstone. But an opportunity for somebody perhaps to emerge from the rough and readiness of the midfield, get themselves into a championship fight, because we've still got a long way to go. You can see there we missed out round 4. We've still got 7 races left in season 43, including this one tonight in Austria. That championship battle hopefully will be very close. 13 points the lead that Melwin Effman's got at the moment. Opportunity for somebody maybe to try and erode into that. If Finlay wins, he will of course take over the championship lead from Melwin. You can just see it there at the top, but we will have a look at the calendar where we're going to be heading throughout the rest of the season. Britain, China, Belgium, all in the back pocket. We had a break week. We didn't turn up to Madrid. It was that one doesn't count. We'll ignore. We'll pretend like it never existed. Austria this week. We've got 7 weeks in a row of Monday PSGL PSF1 action on the console side. Fingers crossed. We should preface that, of course. Imola in a week's time, not on the 26th calendar, but we are going to be racing them in the 26 cars. That's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. Las Vegas will be carnage, as will Mexico City with that incredibly long start-finish straight. Then Brazil, Bahrain, and we round off in the beginning of October, which feels like quite a long time in the future, but then you realise that it's the end of August, and it's not even that far away, and we're already nearly 2/3 of the way through 2026. Wow! But yes, COTA will round out our season, and hopefully it will have a nice little championship tussle to speak of as well. We've got a fairly full lobby. Obviously, we don't usually get full grids, especially when it's in the height of summer. People touching grass, people doing certain things that aren't going to be sim racing on a Monday night, but we're expecting 18, hopefully, and I think we've got 18 in the lobby right now, which is absolutely ideal. So I'll bring myself back on screen, even though that's not good news for anybody. Yes, looking forward to this one. Big fan of the Austrian Grand Prix circuit. I think everybody is. When it first came back in, 2014? Those first 2 years were a bit dead, weren't they? Then we had the Mercedes explosion in 2016. That was fun. And then since then, it's always been pretty exciting, hasn't it? Got some good races. Sometimes get a little bit of rain, don't we? Usually in qualifying, I remember back to, 2020? Styrian Grand Prix. Had a load of rain. Basically, well, needed oars rather than wet weather tyres. That's how wet it was out on the circuit. And yeah, had some good racing. 24, that was a good one. 25, we had that McLaren battle. 23 was interesting as well with all of the time penalties. Don't we love to talk about it? Track limits are going to be quite an important factor, you'd expect, especially in qualifying. If you are jumping in wondering why it is only me right now, that's because Ewan currently not here. Ewan Poole, alongside myself, Tom Wilkinson, more often than not, but we will be waiting. Should be joining mid-qualifying, fingers crossed, and we will have the duo back in action. But I'll read out everybody that is going to be taking part, or has at least said they're going to be taking part. See, we've got Luis Matievich returning. Matt Otsazito is here. Otsazito had checked out, but has now checked back in. So that makes the championship battle even more exciting. Otsazito checked out at 3:03 this afternoon. So whether he's just forgotten to put the unavailable thing, we'll have a check of the lobby. Live updates for us. Is Otsazito there? Otsazito is there. So we do have the driver second in the championship with a late substitute in after being substituted out, so that's fun. Finlay, Volakongan, former champion, Legion, Predestinato, Sasha, Federico Mori jumping in for the first time this season, White Sheep Chiquita, Milan Diorsi, Lifebout, Kazizl, Rydal, and then the reserves are Gabbers, not Barlu Luke, and Lucas. Lazad didn't confirm, but I think they've lost their full-time drive. I can hear it. I think you can hear it as well. The beep's telling us that the countdown is counting down, as it should do, because that's what its name is. And we'll be heading into our qualifying session. Short qualifying if you are new, 18 minutes on the clock before a 50% race. That equates to 36 laps of the Red Bull Ring. And hopefully we do get a bit of rain. Seen some races recently, a lot of races recently around Austria where we do get very late rain. You get it in the last couple of laps and absolute carnage happens because it's not the easiest one-stop race, especially with the tyres. If you go early to get off your mediums, if that's the tyre you start on, those hard tyres, you put a lot of load through them, put a lot of effort through them, especially in those middle phases, bit of a grind. We have had some interesting PSGL races around Austria as well, where the carnage has certainly kick-started. Have we loaded in? We're just in the process of doing so. And the anticipation, I'm sure you can imagine, is an absolute fever pitch as we head for round 4, technically 5, but we'll treat it as round number 4 of our 11. We'll treat it as 10 round season. For season 43. First one in these 26 cars, which have been much derided, not just in real life, but on the game a little bit as well, even though they've done a pretty good job of getting it accurate. Yeah, not many people liking battery racing. Isn't too surprising, considering what we see in real life and what most purists think about when we go racing. But we have loaded in, so we'll remove my horrible face from the screen. And we'll head over to what we actually want to see, which is a black screen. There it is, the Styrian Hills. Alive with the sound of horsepower, not the sound of music. This evening, 18 in the lobby as we expected. I think this is the first time as well we might have the Williams car model in, as that was brought in a little bit later, like the Williams was in real life, because it was significantly overweight, and even though they've got rid of some of those weight issues, it's still quite slow and quite undrivable as well. And they tend to drive into each other, as we saw a couple of days ago in Zandvoort as well. Or yesterday, in fact. I can't remember if it was the sprint or the feature race. But Chiquita in the Audi will be the first to snip in front of whatever Haas that is. That is going to be Fede Mori, also heading out in the Haas car. And then a Ferrari just behind them as well, as we return to PSGL PSF1 action. PSF1 action for the first time in 3 weeks. As we already see a fight going on just behind. 2 McLarens out on circuit as well. Finlay going to be one to watch. Has been fairly strong over 1 lap. Winner in round number 1. Kevin's already supporting the Mori, who's out there representing the Haas team. The only driver representing the Haas team. While we're here and while we're at the very start of qualifying, why don't I bring you the Constructors' Championship standings as well? Some people are very interested in the team standings, some are not, but if you're not, unfortunately, I'm going to fill you in anyway. Alpine leading the way, couple of points ahead of Ferrari, but of course Alpine missing Melvin Effman this evening. Otsazito leading the charge for the Scarlet Ferrari. Then we've got McLaren in third, 42, 40 and 30. The top 3 teams, with Red Bull just a further 3 back on 27. Wooden spoon at the moment is the Haas team, with Fede Mori taking part. They are yet to score so far this season, so hopefully Fede Mori can get them off the starting blocks. But Chiquita powers out of the final corner, one of the shortest laps, if not the shortest on the calendar. And heading into turn 1, we're going to get rocking and rolling for qualifying. Got to be really precise, haven't you? Through Nicky Lauda of turn number 1. Then you've got a bit of respite up through turn 2, which is completely flat. Not really a corner, because you just barely move that steering wheel. And then you throw it into turn 3. A lot of sausage curb on the apex taken there by Chiquita as you plant the loud pedal again. Tricky traction zone coming out of that hairpin right as you come back down the hill into another tricky braking zone. The previous one uphill, this one downhill. Very easy to lock the front right. Throw the car in again, but the rear of the car on exit didn't comply quite as well with what he was asking to, but definitely was working as he threw the car in on corner entry as we head through the middle sector. Usually the point where we're going to maybe see a bit of recharging, as you can see from the ERS light flashing at the back of the Audi car through 6, 7 and turn number 8 as well. And then Jochen Rindt, the penultimate corner of turn 9. Traffic's going to be a big issue as well for Chiquita. I think we're going to make it through unscathed with the Mercedes just in front. And the benchmark time, as we don't invalidate through the final corner, is a 103.8. And Ottazito immediately goes a couple of hundredths quicker. Fede Mori, also a member of the 103.8 club. Will Finlay make it 4 out of 4? Kazizel fastest, 103.8. Surely we get 5 out of 5. No, Kazizel dispossessed by his teammate at the top of the timing charts. 103.7. Now the time to chase. Matt, who has changed his username between now and last time out. Leave the 6-7 chat, please, lads. Oh, my days. Corners 6 and 7. I'll probably bring it up at some point in the race. But Matt doing a very decent job in the championship, has been really consistent, especially in qualifying. Just a couple of corners left to negotiate. Luis Matijevich, I believe that is, in the Cadillac, up to P2 in the Cadillac car, separating the two McLarens. Here comes Matt in the Red Bull. Goes 7th fastest of the 8 times we have got so far. 103.944. Lifeboat slots in just behind, not Barlow Luke, with a bit of a stinker to start off the session. 20.3, backing off, having to go again. Ryder Lau took pole in the very first round of the season. The British Grand Prix at Silverstone has been missing in action since. We're desperately hoping to try and recapture some of that form. Volokongan, former champion, of course, from a couple of seasons ago, season 41, I believe it was, for the now Alpine driver. First appearance of the season came a fortnight ago. Or was it a fortnight ago? No, it was 3 weeks ago, wasn't it? God, that's a long time. In Spa-Francorchamps, where he qualified, I think, towards the back, maybe down in P16, but came through with a good strategy to take 7th. As we see Ryder out in that Aston Martin, getting a little bit out of shape over the curb through turn number 8, which is usually a bit of a nothing corner. But into turn number 9, throw the car in again. Back of the car looking good, not understeering too much. Maybe a bit lively at the rear axle, and then taking a trip off the road to destroy the lap before we've even completed it. 106.1 was the time there for Ryder Lau. Not going to be able to get another go because of the interesting interpretation of track limits, as Jeff would have called it a few years ago through that final corner. As we turn our attention to Gabbers out of said final corner in the Racing Bulls, 104.1. Volokong with a 14 flat, Predestinato 15.7. Probably just a preparation lap you would expect for some of these drivers, getting the tyres into the right operating window. Rydal not able to go again. White Sheep with some issues as well. Here is Sasha through the final corner for the Mercedes outfit, barreling towards the line, 103.9. So still Finlay leading the way, 200ths ahead of Luis Matijevich. Then Kazizel making it a McLaren 1-3. Otzazito second in the championship. Highest placed in the championship of the drivers here tonight in 4th, with Chiquita completing our top 5. Good lap early from Fede Mori, Milan Diorsi, making it an Audi 5.7 also, as we turn our attention to Volokongan, who sets a 104.1. Go 13th fastest, slowest of the representative times. Predestinato 15.8 through sector 1. That's pretty darn speedy. Still waiting for White Sheep, not Barlow Luke, back into the pits. Ryder Dow is going again. You can just see the green dot through turn number 1. Trying to put pedal to the metal. And the second attempt to get a flying lap time on the board. Predestinato, 5.5 seconds up on his personal best. Unsurprising, because it's a 15.7 and he's 12 seconds off the benchmark time. We'll still extract a little bit more. Usually, as we've seen for a decent chunk of drivers, we've had a bit of a cluster of drivers that usually find themselves right at the sharp end in qualifying. Predestinato, typically one of those, but 14th only on a 104.1 is slightly problematic for them. As I'm delighted to say that a third of the way through qualifying, we have got Ewan alongside in the comms box.
Yes, hello. My apologies. I had some issues and I was a bit busy, but we're back now and I'm looking forward to it. I hope qualifying is going well. It looks like Finley is looking good at the moment. Of course, he had a good start to the season, but we'll have to wait and see if he keeps that provisional pole.
Rydal invalidating again, not going well for the Aston Martin. White Sheep with a good lap time to go up to P3 on a 103.7, getting in between Luis Matijevic and Kazizel, who is invalidated. Otsuzito out there improving, but invalidating through the final corner. Yakita just a couple of seconds back down the road. Opportunity to displace Otsuzito in P5 as the Audi charges towards the lines. We find time. Yes, we find 0.2 of a second to take over from Finlay at the summit. First driver into the 103.6s. And Finlay, former provisional pole sitter, not finding time through Sector 1. We will get Ewan into the lobby, as would be ideal for both of us to be able to see what is going on once we finish these runs. So we'll have a bit of a pause once the second flying laps are completed. Finlay with an invalidation throws that lap time in the bin. Milan Diorsi still 8th fastest. This is Fede Mori just starting a lap time, I believe, although that looks fairly pedestrian out of turn 1. It doesn't have any battery at all to deploy. That might be that, Fede Mori, and yes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Of course, Austria is such a short track, so I'm sure you've already covered it's going to be pretty close margins, fine margins around a track like this.
It is indeed. We're going to get the invitation sent right here, right now. There you go.
I appreciate it.
You can get in, as we get the confirmation at the top of the screen as well. The Fede Mori without an improvement, going around on that in-lap, you would expect. 7th fastest has still yet to get off the starting blocks in the constructors' standings. Pulls in the session. Excellent news. We head over to drivers towards the bottom of the pack. Rydal invalidating again. And you wonder if this is now a deliberate tactic to just invalidate every lap time, and the ultimate form of sandbagging as he dips a couple of wheels into the sand/gravel on the exit of turn 6. Not Barley Luke, though. Down to their personal best through sector 1, although 15.8 is not too bad. As we see the second sector split time, they should find a lot and do. 13.4, the only time that they have on the board as things stand. As Lifebound,
yeah,
I
of
think,
course.
Is going again, sorry.
Of course, Rydal got pole in the first race of the season, so it was a great job from him. He's obviously got a lot of qualifying pace, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. But obviously, invalidating will not be ideal, and will put him on the back foot going into the last few runs.
Validating over and over again, not good news either. Lifeboat bailing out of that one. Same with Legion in the Williams. Got Gabbers and Volokongan on lap times. Luis Matijevic out there as well. Just starting a flying lap for Cadillac. 3rd fastest at the moment. Milan Diorsi in P8, up by a 10th through sector 1. Sasha up by a 10.5 through sectors 1 and 2. And we know, because this is, 63 second lap time, field should be very, very tight. The pack should converge massively. So Sasha to the line, gets a little bit of a distant toe, jumps up into P4 with a 103.7, pushes White Sheep down a further spot, pushes Kazizel down a further spot as well, who's on an outlap, same as Otsuzito and Fede Mori. The Diorsi still up by a 10th.
Yeah, definitely. Diorsi looking good in that Audi, having a tidy season so far, in 8th in the championship. So it'll be interesting to see how he does down into the last corner, turn 10. And let's see what he can do up to the line. And it's going to be up to P6. So it's a decent job, less than 2 tenths off pole, as Finlay also in 3rd, Matt, in P2.
Yeah, big improvement from Matt. Gets a good time on the board to go 2nd fastest. Provisionally on the front row. Problems for Matijevic. Means we're going to back out and go again. Invalidation as well for White Sheep. No, still going is White Sheep. Up by half a tenth through the first couple of sectors. Hold your horses, although he's called a sheep. I don't know what you would do in that scenario, unless it's a ram you're talking about, because they've got horns. Up to the line with White Sheep. We improve a little bit, but stay only 6th fastest. Kazizel needs to find a time. Provisionally at one stage was on pole, but I think we've had issues, and we have, through sector 1. So we turn our attention instead to Otsuzito, 2nd in the championship.
Yeah, Otsuzito, of course, getting pole last time out and doing a good job so far. So let's see how he does down into turn 4. It's going to be really interesting in that Ferrari. Of course, he's done a great job in the Ferrari. He's the only Ferrari this weekend, so it's not ideal. They're 2nd in the championship at the moment, so they really need both Ferrari drivers going for it, but only one tonight. So yeah, not ideal for Ferrari, but let's see what Otsuzito can do.
All incremental gains going to be worth gold dust as Otsuzito rides the curb through the penultimate corner. Finlay up to 2nd fastest with an improvement. Otsuzito goes to 7th, finds 400ths Need to find a tenth and a half more to get in the conversation with Finlay and Jakita. Provisional pole sitter out there, down in Sector 1, down in Sector 2 as well. So will we see the Audi beat a retreat into the pit lane? We'll watch and wait to see what happens through the penultimate corner. Are we going to throw it into turn number 9 and keep it pinned? Yes, we are. So we are going to complete the lap until we invalidate, just as we say that, and go wide through the final corner as well. Back to Kazizel, though, who's on it again in the McLaren. McLaren at one stage were first and second, now second and ninth, as Kazizel's had a few drivers slip into that gap between himself and his teammate, but a little improvement through Sector 1.
Yeah, exactly, and he has time to make things right for Kazizel. He's had a good season so far, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does with his teammate Finlay right up there as well. So yeah, he's doing a good job into this second sector, the infield section, into turn 6 and then turn 7, both left-handers. Let's see what Kazizel do. A 10th up, so that's going to do him pretty well. He's only a 10th, would bring him up to 4th at the moment. So it's big gains and big position gains at the moment.
Absolutely, with how tight the field is. But we invalidate through the final corner. Not the first, not the last to do it. Would have been a lap time that got them into P3 as Ryderdal retires in the pits. Fede Mori improving by half a tenth. Another driver in the mid to high 103s as things stand. Original pole sitter Jakita returns to the pits. 4.5 minutes of qualifying left to negotiate. Mori around the final corner, cutting the beam. 10th stays 10th despite the improvement by 0.04. We go back now to Legion, who is invalidated. Volakongan, former champion, also invalidated out there. So nobody at the moment on a push lap.
Yeah, it seems like the last corner, turn 10, is really catching a lot of people out because they're really pushing it to try and find something. But yeah, it's really not ideal, and it's not surprising we see invalidations in the second last lap because the drivers know that they've got another lap that they can make it right, and so they're going full send here, but then they may leave a little bit on the table on the last lap if they have got if they're a little bit far down the grid, like a Lifeboat or Legion. They're gonna maybe take it a little bit easier on that last lap just to get a lap on the board.
Cars out on track at the moment with 3.5 minutes left. Sasha, White Sheep, Gabbers and Lucas, with Fede Mori returning to the pits. Lucas yet to get a time on the board, along with Ryderdal, who's retired from the session, happy to start from the back. So an important lap time, this one, for Lucas in the Silver Arrow. Teammate up in P5, top 10 covered by less than 0.2 of a second. You've got to be on the money. Top 3 covered by half a tenth. And Finlay only 8 milliseconds down on Jakita's provisional pole time.
Yeah, the margins are so close around here in Austria as we expected. So yeah, it's a high quality grid, and it's nothing else that we would expect. But here comes Lucas up to turn 3, track extend all the way to the margin, hit the apex, and then use that exit speed, and then deploy the battery all the way down to turn 4, and then you've just got to think about the braking zone and then turn it in to the apex. He does that well, but you also have to carry the speed on the exit. Don't forget that. And then here we go into the infield section. Of course, Lucas having an okay season so far in the Mercedes. His teammate Sasha in 5th, and that was very wide for Lucas in the gravel, and that was wide again in validation. So not ideal for Lucas. That might be his session over, or will he be able to find another lap?
Throw that attempt at least in the bin. White Sheep, I think, with traffic having to back out on it, will look to the other Mercedes of Sasha, who I think has also bailed too. Or it's a preparation lap, unable to work it out. Gabbers with a big slipstream from the Cadillac just in front, who gets out of the way. Approaching the final couple of corners. Bit of traffic with, I think that's one of the Audis just up the road into the final corner. 11th fastest at the moment for Gabbers. Needs to try and get into those mid 103s. Do we manage it? P5, good lap time, 103.7. Get himself just nestled inside the top 5. Identical lap time to Sasha. So interesting that Sasha wouldn't be above Gabbers, considering that's how it would work in real life. Matievich starting a lap time, but it's the provisional pole sitter Jakita, who's down by 0.3 through Sector 1. So this lap time won't count.
Yeah, not ideal for Jakita when the margins are so close. You cannot be that far down in Sector 1. That is your lap over after that. So let's see what happens. Let's see what Otsuzita can do. Of course, we know his pace is absolutely huge, and he's on a lap at the moment. So yeah, let's see. He's a 10th up at the moment, so this could be huge gains.
big middle sector for Otsazito. 60 seconds left on the clock as the yellow flag still getting in the way of the time. Oh my goodness, it's really annoying. But we throw it into turn number 9. Try and carry the speed again through turn 10. Don't invalidate as we've seen so many do. Maybe a little bit of margin left there. Otsazito to the line, goes fastest. Half a tenth clear of Jakita. First driver into the 103.5s as Milan Diorsi in the second Audi goes fourth fastest. Make that fifth as Matijevic finds a time to go second fastest. Can't displace Otsazito right at the top of the timing charts. Problems for the McLaren still. Finlay a second down. I think Kazizel's had problems too as we turn our attention now to Matt in the Red Bull who's been bumped down to P6.
Yeah, I think Kazizel is still on a lap. He's a 10th up. He's used all his battery, so I think he's still going for it in that McLaren. It's his final effort. Finley goes up to 4th, but let's see what his teammate can do. Kazizel up to 3rd, so that's a decent job from the other McLaren man. And yeah, I think a lot of other drivers made a mistake in that first lap and have decided to recharge the battery and go again on these laps.
Nikita still not improving, half a tenth down through sector 1. Has the provisional pole sitter just been pipped to the post. And as he drops it coming out of turn number 6, that is that. 4th at best now for Jakita, who can try and push him further down. Not the best of first sectors for Finlay, who's down by half a tenth. P5 at the moment, another driver that at one stage was on provisional pole position. Anybody else out there improving? Sasha, 9th fastest, was in the top 5. I don't think he's pushing on this lap time. Yeah, 3 seconds down. Gabber's invalidated. White cheap out of the final corner for Williams. Does improve to go 8th fastest. Top 8 separated by less than a tenth of a second. We return back to Finlay, who has blitzed the middle sector. And this could beat Papaya ruling on top. Otsazito fastest at the moment, only driver in the 103.5s. Could be joined by the winner of the first race of the season. But Finlay's wide through the final corner and throws it in the bin. Lost time as well by going off the road. 5th fastest only for Finlay. What might have been, but that means it is the driver second in the championship, Otsazito, who takes pole, and that is a big performance considering Melwin Effman is absent tonight, the championship leader.
Yeah, that is huge from Otsazito, a great lap, and Finley's invalidation there really cost him because that was a 6.31, which would have been the gap to get with Luis Matijevic in P2. It would have been the exact same time, actually. So just those 1300ths has cost him 2 or 3 positions. So yeah, it's not ideal for Finley, but he's still in the mix there. And yeah, 8 drivers, less than a tenth between them. It's pretty phenomenal to see that, and it's great to see it so competitive and a great lap for Otsazito, his second pole of the season.
Love to see it so competitive, don't we? Otsazito takes it. Top 8 covered by 1/10 of a second. Incredibly tight, as you would expect around a circuit such as this. Predestinato and Sasha just outside of that 1/10 margin. Gabba's Legion, Fede Mori, not Balu Luke. Lucas, Lifebout, Volokongen and Ryderdal, the only driver who didn't get a lap time on the board.
Yeah, definitely. And it's got to say, Luis Matijevic, that's a great lap. He seems to struggle in qualifying, but today he did a really good job. So, yeah, a good job for him. A tough weekend for Williams so far. White Sheep in 8th. That is a pretty good job. And I think he's going to be frustrated because he's only a 10th off and he is 8th. So, yeah, that is a tough one to take for him. But he's got a lot of time to make moves in the race, and Austria is one of those tracks where overtaking is in abundance. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it should be a good fight.
So a little bit of downtime as we get the strategies sorted. A really interesting qualifying session. Otsazito grabbing the bull by the horns with championship leader Melwin Effman not here and taking a step towards maybe taking a big slash out of that 13-point lead and maybe even taking the lead. Already picked up 1 point for pole position. There's still the opportunity to maximise all 17 points that are available. 16 points for a race win. Let's not forget 36 laps awaiting us around the Red Bull Ring as well. Otsazito and Luis Matijevic, who is confusing because Matijevic was in the Alpine for the first 3 races of the season, now transferring to Cadillac. Predestinato, I think, is a little bit back down the order.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, yeah, Alpine are leading the constructors. So Luis Matijevic moving to Cadillac down on 8th. He's hoping to really use that and hopefully bring Cadillac up the constructor standings at the moment.
The Ring 346 official 8. You've typed hello in capitals, so I'll say hello back with some gusto and some enthusiasm. Welcome in. Joined us at exactly the right time, with the race just approaching us. And it sets us up nicely with the championship picture. Opportunities that maybe fell by the wayside as well for some other drivers. Finlay definitely could have been on pole, being up by a 10th through sectors 1 and 2. If he put together that final sector, not invalidated it as well, would have been taking pole away from Otzazito. Finlay, the only other driver apart from Melwin Effman, the championship leader, that has won so far this season in the 3 races that we've had. But we've had a 3-week break because we had a week off, and then we didn't race at Madrid last week because nobody wanted to drive. Supporting Fede Mori, who I think was P10? Have I remembered that right? No, further. Oh, yeah, I apologise. I've bigged Fede Mori up a little bit there, but they were actually 13th. Apologies.
Yeah, very excited in the chat with the Ring, and I hope for his sake that Fedemori has a good job and tries to get in the points. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Of course, Austria, a great track for overtaking, so he can definitely make some moves from there. But it's going to be pretty feisty, I think, in that midfield, pretty competitive. Maybe egos colliding. So we'll have to wait and see. Hello to Indigo in the chat as well. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
We're all lining up ready to go. People on the grid, people in the chat, people in the comms box. We're doing very well. I've spoken for Ewan now. I'm doing well. Hopefully Ewan's doing the same. Hopefully you're doing the same as well, Indigo. And that your race that I assume has just finished was a successful outing as well. My friends Jack, Lewis and Fedit. Well, the Ring 346 official 8. We hope that one of them, with our impartiality of course, does well, so you can continue with that absolute excitement that's going on with the caps lock that I hope you haven't forgotten that's still on. But we wait still. Yeah, definitely. It's going to be very spicy, I think, because it's so easy to overtake and the battery is quite limited. So we'll see quite a bit of lifting and coasting into the likes of turn 3, which is one of those corners where moves are likely to be happening, and it's going to be interesting to see can Otzazito hold on. Well, pinch point at the apex of turn number 1. Back after 3 weeks away. Otzazito on the right. Luis Matijevic on the left. And we go racing for the Austrian Grand Prix. Big wheel spin from somebody. Jakita not getting off the grid particularly well. Neither does Kazizel, to allow Otzazito and Luis Matijevic a little bit of comfort, a little bit of distance into turn number 1 as the McLarens do battle. Finlay already up to 4th at the expense of the Audi of Jakita. Matt waiting in the wings as well. Going very defensive to the middle of the road is Kazizel. Just getting it slightly wrong on the brakes is Jakita. Messy start, but Finlay given a little bit of the cold shoulder by his teammate around the outside of turn 3. Just puts him back into the clutches of Jakita in the Audi. And Matt, who's looking very racy all over the show, trying to find the space. Big lock-up for Finlay down the hill braking zone into turn number 4, but slots in behind his teammate still. Carnage a little bit further back with trading blows. Matt desperately trying to find a way past Jakita, battling away with White Sheep as well, who tries it all the way around the outside of turn number 6. If you can keep it pinned around there, you're giving yourself your best opportunity, but a little bit of tyre-to-tyre contact, I think, sends Matt sideways and sends him tumbling to the lower reaches of the top 10, in fact out of it, as Gabbers helps himself.
Yeah, Matt tried to defend that position but hit Jakita. He tried to defend the position on White Sheep.
I think that is Ryderdal, who retired from qualifying, didn't want to set a lap time. Now it's the 2 green machines bringing up the rears. They have done quite a lot in real life, apart from the last couple of weeks. Lifebout to P17, Ryderdal P18, but still Otzazito leading the way ahead of Luis Matijevic and then the 2 McLarens.
Yep, everyone all mediums except Freddie Mori and Lifebout. So those were 2 anomalies, and those are the ones to watch once everyone boxes. But behind Matt, going for the position, even after losing positions, Freddie Mori trying to defend the position off Legion. Legion absolutely going for it now, but Milian Diorsi as well, going for that move around the outside at turn 4. It's going to be close. Pedestinato just holds on to that move at the moment, but like we expected, there's going to be moves. But here comes Milan Diorsi once again. He's not over that move, but he has to hold on for now.
Freddie Mori still getting tucked in, or stuck in I should say, further back, but he has lost out to the Williams of Legion on those hard tyres, trying to fire them up as best as he possibly can, get the energy into them, so he's got the grip to match the runners on the medium. Still incredibly congested in the lower reaches of the top 10. Diorsi, Sasha, Matt trying to make up for lost time as well in that big cluster from 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th, including Gabs in that. Turn 1, not a traditional overtaking spot. Matt had a run on Sasha, but you'd be a brave man to send it to the inside or indeed around the outside. You'd probably be stupid to send it around the outside, let's be honest, because you've got this long old straight as the Aston Martins swap places at the back. Life out to P18, darting to the inside goes Matt, little bit late on the brakes as he uses the Audi Milan Dorsey, a little bit of a break, and then the tyre locking happens. Great physics from the game there, and he's chucked back down into P10. It leaves Milan Dorsey exposed as we get the worst possible camera angle down the hill into turn 4. Behind there's a big dive bomb from Gabbers, who sent it down the inside of Lucas. Cut back employed by the second Mercedes, going to be the outside of turn number 6 if they're still eyeball to eyeball, which they very much are. Couple of bits of contact already through this sequence of corners of 6 and 7. You see the Haas of Fede Mori losing another spot down to P16 at the expense of not Barlow Luke. But all over the show, Gabbers on all the wrong parts of the racetrack invites Lucas back into the equation, but you're not going to send it down the inside into turn 9.
Yeah, Lucas all over Gabbers at the moment. 3 positions up from his position, 15th up to 12th, and now he's going for 11th on Gabbers, but it looks like that attack is over and he's going to have to hold on to P12 and wait for an opportunity elsewhere. But at the front, Otsazito holding on to that position. Finley, a good start for him at the front as well, up against Jakita. So a good job for the McLarens, 3rd and 4th, and they can maybe do some teamwork from 3rd and 4th at the moment.
Absolutely. Oh, big wobble there for Diorsi. Little bit lively with a loud pedal in the tricky traction zone of turn number 3. Sasha's a little bit too far back and also preoccupied because Matt's still looking punchy down into turn number 4, desperately trying to make up the places that he lost on the opening lap of the Grand Prix. Has to settle for staying in P10. Got a bit of distance between himself and Gabbers just behind. Remember, top 10 do score points, although it's not quite the real F1 point scoring system. 16 for a race win, 12 for P2, down to 1 for position number 10. And no point for the fastest lap as well, because that used to be a rule, but as it was ditched in real life for 2025 and 26, we haven't employed it either. Sasha's still under the cosh though, and that very much all over the back of Mercedes, and it still remains calm at the moment out front, although this is the closest that Matijevic has been to Otsazito at the start of the laps. Lap 5 this one, the gap hovering just between 2 and 3 tenths of a second. The two McLarens watching and waiting in the wings as well, equidistant 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, but still happy just to retain that status quo in the train.
Yeah, because Zizzle looked for a move down into turn 3 on Matijevic, but decided to hold it just for now. But yeah, they're just shaping up moves, seeing where their weakness and strengths are across the track. And then I think later on we'll see some more moves happening. But yeah, Matijevic looking strong at the moment because Zizzle with the support of Finley behind. But here comes White Sheep on Jakita just behind. I'm seeing that, and White Sheep has made that move efficiently. A great move from White Sheep down into turn 6, and he has made the move on Jakita. Jakita losing 2 positions from his starting position, and White Sheep gaining 3.
Yeah, a bit of a pocket pincher there, sending it down the inside of turn number 6. Bit of battery deployed from White Sheep to steal a march on the Audi of Jakita, who ever since invalidating on their final attempt in qualifying, things have just started to unravel. Now down to P6, Predestinato just behind. Not Barlow Luke into the pits at the end of lap number 5, start of lap 6. Hasn't retired just yet, hasn't sped into the pit lane either, so hopefully we will continue onwards. But Matijevic maybe just looking behind, just hovers over to the middle of the road because Kazizel's right there, sending it, sliding it down the inside into turn 3. Millimetrically perfect, the pair of them, through the apex of 3 and on the exit. Just enough space left between the pair of them as they retain the side-by-side status. Squeeze employed by the Cadillac. Back over to the left-hand side to get the line through turn 4. But it's Kazizel with the high road. Slide for Matijevic on the exit. Invites Finlay very much into the fray as well, but dumping the ARS to try and keep this second place in the train is Kazizel this time that gets bundled off the road and has to settle for that 3rd place still. Tried all he might to get past Luis Matijevic, unsuccessful in his attempts, and he's now got his teammate Finlay and a racy looking White Sheep to try and deal with too.
Yeah, because it's all shaped up for that move last lap, I was saying, but he really went for it that time. But Matijevic was able to hold on there. He had the racing line, and that was enough to keep him ahead. But because it's all over Luis Matijevic at the moment, he just has to go for it. But Luis Matijevic defending well.
probably used a little bit of battery to try and get back ahead of Kazizl. That's the double-edged sword of the battery race we're seeing. Do we try the dive again? Yes, we do, into turn 3. Tried it on the previous lap, doesn't work. This time he clatters into the side of the Cadillac, shoulder barges his way through, and I wonder if he's going to hand that one back. He's got to be careful because Finlay now side by side with the Cadillac also. Kazizl's going to continue on his merry way. I don't think Matejevich will be too enamoured by what he's seen. Both Papaya and McLaren strolling through. Now has to deal with a different Mercedes engine car in the Williams, a white sheep, who'll have to go the long way around into turn number 6. Favoured overtaking spot for the Williams, a white sheep. Tried it once, this time there's a bit of contact. Out of shape go the pair of them, but Matejevich getting gobbled up here, and from second down to P5 in the space of a lap.
Wow, yeah, Matejevich really struggling. That is a terrible lap for him. Another position gained for White Sheep. A great start from the Williams man. He showed a decent pace in qualifying, but this is an even better pace. He's attacking, but Matejevich is having to look behind him at every single opportunity.
Still on the back foot. Next up on the hit list is Chiquita through turn number 1. 0.3 per second the margin. Somebody with an interesting line. I think that was Sasha, who was a bit out of shape through the apex of turn 1. Otsazito, Kazizl, Finlay, White Sheep, and then Matejevich crest the hill. Diving to the inside is Milan Diorsi, trying to pick the pocket of Predestinato this time. Slides the Audi through. Matt also through on Sasha. I say that, but he's dropped back behind the Mercedes. And now he's got a different one to deal with. It's Lucas who's chomping at the bit to push him outside of the top 10. Diorsi still battling away with Predestinato, has that 7th place within his grasp. Lucas to P10, catching Matt out into the braking zone, but still the Audi battling away with the Cadillac. Predestinato not going down without a fight, keeps his nose in it until he backs out on the run into 7th.
Yeah, Milan Diorsi doesn't really leave enough room on the outside, and Predestinato is forced to back out after getting pushed onto the gravel, so not ideal for him. But here comes Lucas swapping positions at Mercedes. Lucas up 6 positions and Sasha down to 10th, but Matt also going for the moves in that lap sequence, but not quite working for him, making collisions even while trying to make some moves. So not ideal for him, but a good start for Lucas.
Sasha's got damage as well. Front right end plate missing from that Mercedes car. That's why it was so easy for Lucas to pull on through. And I think Matt's going to be desperate to push him down outside of the top 10. As we crest the hill once more on the run through turn 2 and up to turn 3. There is the sight of the Red Bull down the inside on the left of picture. Sasha, how much have you got to fight with? Matt leaves the space on the outside, but should be fairly cut and dry, and is for the time being. Not Barlow Luke on the hard tyres, fastest lap of the race. Big old undercut being employed as Volokongan, former champion, on the move, as is Legion down the inside of the wounded Mercedes of Sasha. Volokongan could maybe steal a couple of places here if he's smart. The Mercedes is shuffled out by the Williams, comes back into turn number 6. Be careful of the understeer with the front wing damage. Cruising around the outside goes Legion. Very expertly executed move as Otsazito's off the road. He's slammed into by Lucas. Missed what happened. Otsazito done though. I don't think he's out of the race, but with big damage. Now side by side into turn 9 goes Legion, and Matt, who must have been caught up in that affray as well. Sasha still with the damage. Otsazito's made a blunder somewhere. Somehow, no visible damage on that Ferrari, but down in P14.
How on earth is that not a safety car? Lucas went smashing into Otsazito. Lucas is out of his race, losing a wheel. I'm not sure what happened to Otsazito there. Maybe a bit of a moment on the exit of 7, and that has really cost him your race leader down into 14th, and it's now on McLaren 1-2. So this is huge for this race, but I have no idea how that is not a safety car or even a virtual, because we have a race, we have a driver out, and Otsazito down to 14th. So pretty shocking stuff here.
We just cut to Otsazito. He's parked on the apex of turn number 8. Slamming into him went the Mercedes of Lucas. Rider out through on Fede Mori. And that's the battle for 11th and 12th. Chiquita must have been caught up in that as well. The Audi jumping into the pits. Even the 2 McLarens out there ahead of White Sheep. Then comes Matejevich in 4th. Diorsi up to 5th, ahead of Predestinato. Then the gap back to Legion in 7th. We've split up the train of cars. Absolute carnage going on. And Otsazito with a golden ticket there to try and slash the championship leader, the absent Melvin Effman, as Volokongan into the pits early to get rid of his medium compound tyres, has either made a big old blunder or has been given a helping hand off the road and is very lucky to still be going.
Yeah, Otsazito is going to be counting his lucky stars, but he's still in this race and he still has something to fight for, because, yeah, that was tough, and Otsazito getting smashed into by the Mercedes of Lucas, but staying in this race. But who is in this race is White Sheep. He's going to try go for this move down the inside at turn 5. He's going to make the move pretty efficiently, but he makes a little bit of a moment on the outside. So Finley's going to keep on fighting this. He's going to keep going around the outside at turn 6. White Sheep has the inside. Finley has the ideal line. It looks like White Sheep has this now. So a great move from White Sheep, and what a start from him. He's showing that he has incredible pace at the moment.
Yeah, a bit of the lead foot syndrome there coming out of 4. Almost cost him that really nice late breaking move down the inside of Finlay. Matters not as we continue onwards. These guys happy to stay out on the mediums still. Fede Mori on the hard tyres, just retaken 10th place from Ryder. Now that's because the Aston Martin in the pits, along with Gabbers, who's another driver that's had some trials and tribulations, been off the road a couple of times so far in this race. Otsuzito there in 11th with Lifeboat for company just outside the points paying positions. But nose to tail once more. This is time, it's White Sheep on the defensive. Finlay into turn 3 to the inside. Contact again. Just leaves the space for White Sheep, but a bit of a bump and run, and the bumping and grinding will continue as they head back down into turn 4. Does it invite Matijevich into the fray? We'll have to wait and see. The answer is yes. The Cadillac spots the gap. The White Sheep just pulling across there into the braking zone of turn 4, slamming the door, making it very evidently clear that the Cadillac was not invited down the inside. Diorsi and Predestinato just behind. Then it's 2 seconds back to Legion, Matt and Sasha, and Fede Mori, who's starting to make those hard tyres work. Sasha, we know, has a little bit of front wing damage on that right-hand side. He'll be compromising the Mercedes run. Fastest lap goes to Chiquita, by the way, on the hard tyres with that undercut. Yeah,
it seemed like White Sheep really went for it against Finley, used a lot of battery, but now he was vulnerable to Finley, and now he's a bit vulnerable to Louis Matijevich, who's done a good job recharging the battery after he lost a lot of positions in the first few laps, and he's doing a good job now to stabilize in 4th position and almost being almost attacking White Sheep in 3rd. But yeah, White Sheep is going to have to change his approach now to overtaking, because that obviously didn't work in attacking Finley, so we'll have to wait and see if he takes a different approach to his overtaking next time.
Win moves into turn 3. Matt down the inside of Legion. Fede Mori down the inside of Sasha. Both completing the move, but still having to work for it on the run down into 4. Legion backs out of it. Sasha not in the equation either. So through goes the Red Bull from 7th to 6th. Fede Mori in the Haas from 9th to 8th. That could be 7th, as it almost looked like Legion just rolled out the red carpet to the outside of turn 6. Possibly the easiest overtake Fede Mori is going to make tonight, and takes an absolute freebie off the hands of the Williams. Volokongan the lead at the moment of the drivers that have stopped, although he's got Predestinato on a brand new set of hard compound tyres to deal with in 12th and 13th. That'll be Legion, I think, jumping into the pits. No, it's going to be Sasha, probably to fix that front wing damage as well, as the leaders continue to soldier on out front. Top 5 separating themselves from that mid-pack now.
Yeah, and Fede Mori on those hards, making hay while the sun is shining for those hards, while the mediums are really struggling, and he's doing a good job making no positions, but he's lacking in the battery department. But will he go for the move on Matt down into turn 3? No, he chooses to hold back, charge that battery up, and maybe, Matt goes a little bit wide. Fede Mori goes for it, but Matt holds it for now.
Looks like he didn't really want to make the move, but almost forced into it. Fede Mori with Matt not troubling the apex of turn number 3. And again, Fede Mori doesn't go for it under braking into turn 4. Clearly has a bit more pace here, though. Hard tyres definitely at this stage in the ascendancy over the mediums, as you would expect. We've already seen a lot of drivers get shot with their mediums after just 10 or so laps, or low teens, as we're on lap 14 at the moment. Top 5 still out there at the moment. Top 10 yet to pit in this race. There's not Barlow-Luke batting away with Ryderdale side by side. I think one of the McLarens is in the pits. That will be Kazizel, joined by White Sheep. The nose job there for not Barlow-Luke not helping, as Ryderdale with 6 lap fresher tyres helps himself to P15. Finlay and Matijevich stay out, along with Diorsi and Fede Mori. Otsuzito still going also after the calamities that befell him a few laps ago with Lifeboat. Here comes Kazizel and White Sheep, though. Legion and Matt also in the pits. There's Volokongan, who is the net leader of the pit stoppers so far, who will take over. Predestinato through as well. 2-lap undercut, got himself ahead of Kazizel and ahead of White Sheep. There's Gabbers just going wide through turn 1 in the background. I think Predestinato might be fancying his chances of getting ahead of Volokongan and taking 7th place on the road. Had a little look. Looks like he caught himself out maybe slightly into the braking zone. And just hovering behind for the time being, but with a 2-lap undercut, 2-lap fresher tyres for Predestinato, you feel like this might just be a matter of time, as there is the flash of Papyrus Kazizel. He just comes over the crest on the downhill run into 4.
Yeah, because it's all White Sheep. It's all going to be about how efficiently they can get through the likes of Predestinato and Volokongen, because if they want to win this race or be in the fight to win this race, they're going to have to get past these guys pretty efficiently, as Finley, Luis, Milan Diossi all box from those medium compound tyres. It's going to be interesting to see how big that undercut is. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. Finley coming out onto the hard compound tyres, and Volokongen and Finley and Kazizel all on the straight now, so it's going to be pretty big. I think Finley just coming out the pit lane now, and I think it's going to be more than a second away from Kazizel and White Sheep.
Couple of seconds plus the rest, in fact, so that's worked out nicely for Kazizel and White Sheep. Down the inside into 3 we head with Predestinato on Volokongen. White Sheep fancying his chances, nipping at the heels of Kazizel as well. You can see they're very closely contested over 6th and 7th. Predestinato to 4th, Volokongen down to 5th. Kazizel just has to get his elbows out to keep the Williams of White Sheep at bay, who is continuing to look punchy into the braking zones. Looks like he's got confidence into the heavy braking zones on the circuit. Now to the outside of turn 6, pulled this overtake once on the inside, pulled it once on the outside, does it twice. That is absolutely stunning from White Sheep. No tyre advantage, just pure confidence to loop it around the outside of the McLaren of Kazizel and steal that place with aplomb.
Wow, a great move from White Sheep. Up to P1, Finley up to P8, Gabza letting Finley go through. So Finley has the 1 lap tyre advantage, but he's over 1.5 seconds back as Otsuzito boxes after his issues earlier. But yeah, a great move from White Sheep. Now he needs to find the moves on Volokongen and Predestinato, but will Kazizel be able to do anything against White Sheep?
It'll be a defensive game, a rearguard action you would expect for Volokongen. Still holds that place into turn number 6, but Finlay in the group behind, edging ever closer. Gabba's in there, then Matievich, Diorsi and Matt also coming through as well. As here comes the Williams of White Sheep down the inside into turn 4. Little bit of a tentative send there down the inside of Volokongen. Eventually muscles his way through, but a bit of a clumsy overtake in the end. Gets the job done with no harm done, and gets up to P4 and can keep tabs on Predestinato. Yellow flag out through turn number 4. That is for Legion, who has dropped it, I think, in the Williams, going slowly. So as one Williams moves forward, the other tumbles back. Bellimori and Lifebout continue onwards, and these are the net race leaders. Predestinato from White Sheep, from Volokongen, who's got the oldest tyres of everybody, under the cosh enormously as the season 41 champion. Kazizel desperate to try and get through and keep the duo in front, in particular White Sheep, very much at arm's length, as Finlay pumps in the fastest lap, taken away immediately by Ryderdale.
Yeah, and Finley is back in that second region with Kazizel and White Sheep fighting these guys with a bit of a tyre offset. So Kazizel going for that move on Volokongen now for P5, provisionally P2, provisionally on the road. So yeah, a good move for Kazizel. As not Baloo Luke retires in the pit lane. That's a bad day for him. But here comes White Sheep on the inside of turn 4, and that's going to be a move done for White Sheep into the provisional lead. He is looking good as Kazizel also makes that move on Volokongen, and Finley is going to be looking close behind to go for a send at turn 6. That's a move of desperation, and that's a move pretty efficiently done. Said again. So yeah, Finley, a good job, and as he's got a tyre offset, so he's looking pretty neat.
Blundered down the inside, made it absolutely sure that he was passing Volokongen. As there goes Matievich, great move as well on Gabbers into the penultimate corner. Up to P8 as Fede Mori into the pits to get rid of their hard compound tyres. Maybe a slightly curtailed stint on the hards, only done half the race, got to do the other half of course on the mediums, which haven't looked that great. So just watch this space. White Sheep net race leader from Predestinato, and then the 2 McLarens, Finlay and Luis Matievich, along with Milan Diorsi, who's a little bit further back in the train with the best tyres. Little look to the inside, perhaps from Predestinato, to the inside of White Sheep into turn 3. Puts him slightly offline, as Kazizel maybe was sensing an opportunity to just pick up a place for absolute free. Now just jinking and ducking and weaving behind the Cadillac into turn 4, making life difficult for Predestinato into the braking zone. But all's well that ends well so far for the Cadillac in P3.
Yeah, I think it was more of a defensive manoeuvre from Predestinato against Kazizel into turn 3. So he's thinking defensively at the moment, but he's not going down without a fight. So he's doing a good job holding on to that at the moment. But Kazizel is going to be feeling like he needs to make this move if he wants to fight White Sheep for this win.
Predestinato just under a little bit of pressure here. 2 lap older tyres than White Sheep and Kazizel. 3 lap older tyres than Finlay, just paying the price a little bit for that undercut that gave him the track position in the first place. Same situation that Volokongan finds himself in, 9/10 of a second off the back of the two McLarens, just trying to cling onto the coattails, cling on for dear life to try and get dragged along by this group as Legion, the third retiree so far. Again, Predestinato just has to move over ever so slightly because Kazizel filling up his rear mirrors with the sight of Papaya, and now he's definitely got to go defensive down the hill, but doesn't really go defensive, and Kazizel in turn not particularly intent on sending it down the inside. That all looked a little bit nicey as they've caught Lifebout in front, who is yet to stop.
Yeah, that was a little bit tentative from Kazizel, not going for that aggressive move down the inside of turn 4. So he is deciding to be a little bit more patient than I was anticipating. But yeah, Predestinato still doing a good job, but certainly under the pressure as White Sheep, putting under pressure Lifebout in P1, and it's going to be stacking up these drivers behind him as White Sheep goes for it. Lifebout goes for the defensive move, almost puts him in the pit wall, but White Sheep able to make that move. Now he's to run. He's got two drivers in front of him that are on older tyres.
Got to get out of the way here. Absolutely nothing to fight with. 20-lap-old hard tyres. Through go 2, through goes the third. Kazizel fancies his chances. Wants a piece of the Cadillac, as does his teammate into turn 3. Contact between Predestinato and Finlay, who tries to slide it down the inside of the Cadillac as well. The McLaren's attempting to double team the Cadillac. One getting through, the other not quite managing the same feat. Lifebout still P5, yet to stop in this race. Volokongan, 10-lap-old hard tyres, just trying to cling on to the leaders, but the Aston Martin in the way through the middle sector, not going to be good news, and might just push Luis Matijevich, who's also on the freshest tyres along with Finlay, a little bit further away from the lead train. White Sheep slightly wide through turns 7 and 8. Predestinato still looking in his mirrors, this time in a different McLaren. This time it's Finlay, winner of round number 1, who got close into the penultimate corner. As there goes Matijevich on Volokongan. Didn't see the move, but it must have been very, very well executed to take it into the penultimate corner.
Yeah, these moves are crucial for Matijevich if he wants any chance, but Finlay goes through into the podium positions. But yeah, Luis Matijevich needs to make these moves if he wants any chance of fighting in that front train, but he's losing positions, losing time. Lifebout 1.4 seconds behind Luis Matijevich, going for that move on the inside, but here comes the Alpine as well, Volokongan on the inside of Lifebout, so they're all making moves on Lifebout, who is just holding on until he can get onto those medium tyres.
Not a lot he can do at this stage, but hope and pray that he doesn't get clattered off the road. Kazizel to the inside of White Sheep into turn 4. First real time that he's laid his cards on the table in the battle for the lead of the race. 2 McLarens versus 1 Williams. Opportunity for McLaren, who are currently 13 points off Alpine in the Constructors, to take a big step towards them, especially with Ferrari, who are second, down in 13th only with Odsazito. Opportunities definitely for championship protagonists. White Sheep, Kazizel, Finlay separated by absolutely nothing through the final couple of corners. Predestinato still in the equation as well. Then the second Cadillac of Matijevich, a further second back down the road, bringing Volokongan, Milan Diorsi and Matt along for the ride with him. To the inside goes Kazizel into turn 1. Interesting that he's decided to make that move. Just bolts Finlay a little bit at the apex of the opening corner. Now Kazizel has to go incredibly defensive up the hill through turn 2 and into turn number 3. Finlay spots the space. Briefly, I think we were 3 wide. White Sheep now to the inside of Kazizel, who's got the high road on the outside. Better traction out there also, and can keep the Williams in his back pocket and leave him on the back foot with his teammate charging up behind him. Back down the hill we head into turn number 3. Long way round it'll be. Kazizel tentative under brakes, very early under brakes, catches the pair of them out. Contact between the Williams and the second McLaren of Finlay, who charges round the outside. Inside of turn 6 now for the winner of the Australian Grand Prix. To the inside, can he manage it? Yes, he can. Finlay powers on through it to McLaren 1-2 now, as White Sheep's found himself double teamed by the 2 Papaya cars to drop him out of contention.
Yeah, definitely. It looked like Kazizel was really backing up White Sheep on his racing line, and that gave Finlay the run to go around the outside at turn 4 on White Sheep. So White Sheep's going to be pretty frustrated with that. With these 2 McLarens working together, they can do it. They're playing the team game, but yeah, frustrating for the Williams man. He's still got the pace, but Finlay is looking good at the moment, and the McLarens can now control it from 1-2.
8 car train at the head of the field. so far. Kazizl from Finlay. White Sheep down to third. Predestinato, Matijevich, Diorsi, and then Matt sending it down the inside of Volokongan, who's on ailing hard compound tyres. Oldest tyres of anybody in the field, barring Lifeboat, who hasn't pitted, and Jakita, who stopped very early for a little bit of damage. Through goes Matt, easy as you like, to take 7th place away from the former champion. They're still 3 and a bit seconds clear of Gabbers. Watch out for Fede Mori, who's been charging on a set of the medium compound tyres. Still the leaders battling. White Sheep to the inside of Finlay, just understeering and oversteering there in the second part of turn number 6. Finlay leaves the space through 7. Wasn't sure if the Willies were still going to be parked alongside with the apex. And a little bit of a hair raiser for both of them, as White Sheep was a little bit out of shape, not once but twice through turn 6.
Yeah, indeed, and all this fighting is letting Louis Matijevich and Milan Diorsi get back into this front train. This front train goes down all the way down to 8th at the moment, so this front train is fully connected. Rideout gets a 3-second penalty as Fede Mori goes for that move, and Fede Mori up to 9th. Let's see if he, on his mediums, can do anything to get into that front train.
Incredibly closely contested, especially at the sharp end. Why is Jakita P14, now P15, must have been involved in a massive accident. Otsuzito, we picked up the former race leader and the pole sitter in the middle of the road going through turn number 8, was clattered into by Lucas, had his front right tyre ripped off the car. Jakita, we think, was involved in those skirmishes, picked up a bit of damage and had to jump into the pits. Got 15 lap old hard compound tyres, down in last place as he overtakes Lifebout, who is now in last place, but on 24 lap old tyres and is yet to pit so far. Been a painful few laps from Lifebout, who in not a long period of time has gone from the front of the field to the very back of it. Fede Mori clearly timing their switch to the mediums right. Give himself an opportunity to try and chase down this lead group of 8 cars, headed up by the 2 McLarens still.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's going to be fighting like we've already seen so far, Fede Mori does have a good chance of getting up to this pack. But you've got to ask the question, will his mediums be at the prime condition if he catches? I don't think so. I think he's already got 7 laps on those medium tyres, so it's going to be tough for him. But it's going to be tough for Louis Matijevich as well, as here comes Milan Diorsi. Oh, it's going to be close. Milan Diorsi spins around into the wall, and that was a little bit late from Louis Matijevich. A little bit late of a defensive move, and Milan Diorsi gets spun into the gravel and into the wall. That's damage, and that's down to 9th.
Given a helping hand and a shoulder barge off the road there, and that would have been a bit of an eyes on stalks moment as he was heading straight for the barrier. Managed to slow it down a little bit through the gravel, but not ideal at all. And it's pushed Matijevich away from Predestinato and left him falling further into the clutches of Matt, who has got 1 lap older tyres, with Matijevich embroiled in a little bit of a skirmish there that's ended the chances of Milan Diorsi. And from both Audis looking very strong at one stage in qualifying, we did have them 2nd and 4th at one stage, now 12th and 14th with 10 or so laps to go. 10 laps now to go in the Austrian Grand Prix as we start 27. The 2 McLarens leading the way. Kazizl from Finlay. White Sheep at one stage was leading this. Got bumped back down behind the 2 McLaren cars, still holding firm in 3rd, ahead of Predestinato. Matijevich has got issues. Have we now got weather problems as well? The skies have darkened, and we do have rain. Well, that's going to be... I mentioned it in the intro. I've seen a lot of times recently, in the back end of an Austrian Grand Prix, we get some rain. Hold tight, everybody. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I spotted some rain on the onboard of Finlay, and this is going to completely change this race. It's all going to be about the call and for the McLarens. This is terrible because they're going to either have to double stack or go 1 lap longer, and that will completely destroy the second man on the road. So I'm intrigued to see, will they be playing the team game now, or will it be gloves off at McLaren?
Still only spitting, can only see a few drops, and then we've got the streaks on the halo. That is the main sign the rain is falling, as Finlay almost pushing his teammate into the penultimate corner. Diorsi already onto a set of the intermediate tyres. Let's just watch his sector times, watch the delta. Not ideal this for Cadillac either, but with the struggles that Matijevich is currently having, dropping time hand over fist to the leading quartet might end up working in his favour if we do have a mad dash into the pit lane with a few laps to go. 28 of 36. We've got 9 laps of the Austrian Grand Prix to go. A 4-car train is now separated at the head of the field. Little bit of contact, I think, between the 2 McLarens into turn number 3. Finlay just giving Kazizl a little bit of a push as we hear the wheel spin from somebody heading through turn number 3. Predestinato happy to just hover in P4. Matijevich still under pressure, but Matt doesn't make the move again into turn 4.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if big moves are going to be trying to be made, because it's very hard to make moves in the wet with no boost mode. That's your ideal overtaking device. You're not going to have that in the rain, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to make moves in the wet. If it does get to the wet tyres, the intermediate tyres, it's going to be tough. So I expect moves to be done. Maybe White Sheep becomes impatient in third. If Finley still holds behind, White Sheep is going to go for it because he's got nothing to lose. And don't forget, Finley has a 1-lap tyre offset, so he's going to have the best tyres. But White Sheep, a lockup in the wet conditions, and that is not ideal. I'm pretty sure that was a lockup. Did you catch that?
I think it's a technical problem. I think there might be a wheel issue there for White Sheep, which throws him out of contention to picking up not least a podium, but maybe even the race win, as Matt finally threw on Matijevic into turn 3. White Sheep tumbling down the field, only just got going again, as Matt now up to P4 leaves Matijevic to squabble with the former champion Volokongan, leaves the McLarens in a situation where they could put some distance now between themselves and Predestinato, who is outside the 1 second window. Finlay, with 1 lap fresher tyres, looks to be a little bit quicker at this stage than Kazizel, all over the back of him, but they're in this tentative position where neither one of them wants to pull the trigger, but they've got to be careful. If Kazizel boxes, Finlay has to be very attentive to what his teammate is doing.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see what happens here, and it's also crucial to keep it within track limits, because a 3-second penalty could absolutely ruin your race. So yeah, let's see if Finley tries to make the move on Kazizel, or is there an agreement down at McLaren? We've already seen them work together, but it looks like Finley has got a run out of turn 1.
Predestinato is wide as well in the background, but Kazizel all over the road at the moment, grappling for non-existent grip. Finlay doesn't send it to the inside of turn 3. His teammate again struggling. 10-second penalty for White Sheep, who is out of the equation. Heart goes out to White Sheep if it was a technical problem. It was out of his control. A podium that looked almost a certainty, maybe a win, with the tentative boat the 2 McLaren drivers found themselves in. Thrown away, and it'll be nil points for the Williams team. But it remains Kazizel with his teammate glued to his diffuser. 1.5 seconds nearly now the gap between themselves and Predestinato, who's slowly being reeled in by Matt, who has a 2-lap tyre advantage over the Cadillac. Matijevic still struggling out there. Volokongan able to cling on to him. Then comes Fede Mori in P7 on the medium tyres, albeit 11-lap old mediums. Both McLarens continue onwards. So with 6 laps to go, top 9 still out on the slick tyres. The Inter-runners not particularly quick at this stage either.
Yeah, for McLaren, I think one of them has to box 1 lap early, because if you go 1 lap late, you're going to be losing so much time. I think you're just going to have to deal with a little bit worse Inter tyre wear, because going on to Inters in bad wet weather, in dry conditions, that's going to burn out your Inters pretty quickly. So I think that's the best decision that one of the McLarens can make, because going 1 lap late is going to absolutely ruin their chances.
Kazizel really struggling deep again, this time into turn number 3, but still Finlay unwilling to make that move, at least under braking. Happy to sit behind his teammate into turn 4. White Sheep, wheel disconnection. I apologise, it wasn't my fault, at least I don't think it was. Sorry for that one though, White Sheep. That was looking like a good one for yourself, especially with the way that the 2 McLarens have got to be very careful out in front. Predestinato continues to leak time, now closer to Matt than he is to the 2 Macca cars. Finlay pushing his teammate again. Finlay definitely looking more confident in these conditions, got a little bit more pace in these conditions as well. And you wonder if maybe the best chance of one of these McLarens winning is if Finlay gets through. Fede Mori battling with Volokongan. No, he's not, because the former champion jumping into the pits. And this should be for the Inters. Ryderdale following suit as well.
Yeah, this could be interesting, as here comes Finley. They're going to be side by side down into turn 3. It looks like Finley has made that move. Kazizel lets his McLaren teammate go. Finley makes that move, and he was looking likely to make that move a few laps before, and he has finally made that move. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit of turn 3, but he's made that move, and that is huge for the man with the 1-lap tyre offset.
And Matt, it's important because Matt's quicker than the pair of them, or has been quicker than the pair of them. Yellow flag is out for an Aston Martin off through the final corner. That is Otsazito. No, it's not. That's Lifebout, sorry. Down in 14th. Otsazito's on my mind because our championship leader has said that Otzazito was in first. He got absolutely pile-driven by somebody. We cut to Otzazito, stopped in the middle of turn number 8, slammed into by a couple of cars. One of them, Lucas, who picked up, well, didn't pick up anything. He lost his front left tyre. And we think there was problems as well. Speaking of problems, what's happened to Matt? Matt's been off the road. Got dirt all over his tyres. Matijevic through. Fede Mori to P5. And suddenly another driver who was chasing down the two McLarens with a mistake. He's got absolutely no grip at all. Otzazito's going to help himself as well.
Yeah, I think off at turn 7, and that's really cost him, and he's just lost all grip in these damp conditions. But it looks like the front 7 are staying out on those inters. But yeah, it's been a pretty untidy race for Matt. He's had quite a few incidents. He's been in a few mistakes here and there, and up front, Finley, 1.8 seconds, because I think made a little mistake up at turn 3, and Predestinato is looking good. He's catching Kazizel at the moment. So yeah, Finley doing a really good job, and it looks like these front 7 are going to try limp home in these damp conditions, or will one of them roll the dice and go for the inters this late?
Got to be careful, because as Lifeback retires, Volokongan's just started taking chunks of time out of Matt and Otzazito. Have we hit the point where the inters are the tyre you want to be on? Finlay, with 3 and a bit laps to go, rounds the final couple of corners. Volokongan taking a lot of time out. These conditions have deteriorated very rapidly indeed now. Lap 34 with the two McLarens still first and second, but this is not safe at all, because 15 seconds back down the road, Volokongan is absolutely flying. And can he make a late charge? The former champion who hasn't won a race since he picked up that championship in season 41. As we'll go instead, as requested, it's more than 15 seconds. My maths is absolutely terrible. It's 20 seconds, just under, with 3 laps to go. Volokongan the gap to Finlay.
It's a long effort for Volokongan to try and close that gap, but he is gaining quite a bit on Matt at the moment, and I think it's a little bit too little too late for Volokongan, your former world champion, as Sasha and Gabsa go side by side. Gabsa going for it down at turn 3 and making that move. Sasha's going to try go around the outside with that traction, and they're going to go side by side all the way down to turn 4. Gabsa has that inside. Sasha has the ideal racing line. It looks like Sasha will have the traction to hold on to that position, but Gabsa's really going for it. But Volokongan is gaining hugely on Matt at the moment. It's 1 or 2 or 3 seconds a lap, but he needs more than that if he wants a top 5 finish.
I think I got a bit excited, despite Volokongan taking 3 seconds, probably 4 seconds by the time he crosses the line out of Finlay and Kazizel. Fede Mori losing time. I think he's made an error. Is that front wing damage? Perhaps no, but definitely with a wobble coming out of the final corner. Otzazito to P5 now. If Otzazito can salvage a P4 after, well, it should be out of the race after it was clattered into by a couple of cars. White Sheep telling us it was a spin that caused Otzazito to be parked in the middle of the road. 16 seconds the margin with a couple to go between Finlay and Volokongan. I don't think Volokongan's going to be catching. He's actually lost a little bit of time through turn 1. So Finlay should be comfortable.
Yeah, I'm surprised Otzazito spun at turn 7 and 8. It's a quite unusual place to spin, as Volokongan gains on Matt and gets ahead. So I think inters are definitely the right tyres to be on. But I don't think Volokongan will be able to do much with it. I think he'll be able to maybe get P4, but I think that'll be it for him.
P4, definitely the opportunity. Taking another massive load of time. If this lap was 37, or if this race was 37 laps, maybe Volokongan will be in with a shout. But Fede Mori sliding away. Off the road goes Predestinato. Is that a puncture? Yes, Predestinato. Rear left tyre is blown up. 22-lap-old tyres. The two McLarens might just be sweating a little bit more. Volokongan through on Fede Mori to P5. Matijevic under pressure from Otzazito. Conditions still deteriorating as we start the last lap with McLarens first and second. Otzazito with a look to the outside of turn 1. Can he salvage a podium? Unlikely, because Volokongan's right there on the right compound. Look at the grip the former champion's got. Going to gobble up this pair as they head through turn number 2. Spots a gap, gets a big old face full of Cadillac as he tries to find the space. Now switches to the inside finally. Outbraking Matijevic into 3. Outbraking Otzazito into 3. And takes position number 3 for his troubles. But he's got 12 and a bit seconds over the two McLarens to try and make up. You feel like that's unlikely, but we have to keep watching his scrap behind because more intermediate runners are coming. Fede Mori's going to be under pressure from a whole gaggle of cars that are chasing him down in the second half of the last lap. Big slide will hand a couple over. Through goes Sasha. Through goes Ryderdow with a penalty. Gabs are going to try and follow through also. Volokongan still flying out there. Otsazito not assured of fourth place yet as he drifts through turn 7. But out in front, Finlay, for the second time this season, in the absence of Elwyn Effman, steps up to lead the McLaren team, and he will take his second win of the season from Silverstone to Spielberg. Finlay wins it in Austria. Kaziza will make it a McLaren 1-2, just a couple of seconds ahead of Volokongan in third. And then Otsazito, this will be a drag race to the line. Sasha's already got past Matijevich, but I think Otsazito clings on to fourth and does. Matijevich in sixth. Gabsa from Fede Mori, Ryderdow and Chiquita, despite everything that's gone wrong for the lead Audi, completes your points finishes. Matt tumbling down to 11th in the end with Diorsi the last of the finishes.
Yeah, a bit of drama back there with the rain coming, and Finlay, a great drive from the McLaren man. Very measured effort from him. He had the tyre offset, and that ultimately gave him enough grip, enough tyre wear to really make those moves and get up into P1 from 5th on the grid. And it's got to be said, a fantastic race from Volokongan, making that tyre strategy work and making that call that got on the podium from 17th on the grid. So yeah, a great result from Volokongan, and Kazizel, of course, P2 to his teammate. That's his first points of the season.
Super race. We had some great battles going on before. Great battles at the end as the rain came down. Finlay from Kazizel, McLaren 1 and 2. Volokongan from 17th on the grid to 3rd with a very impressive race strategically. Otsazito counting his lucky stars. I don't think will take over the championship lead from Melwyn Effman, but Finlay in that equation as well. From pole to 4th, but could have been a whole lot worse. Sasha Matijevich, Gabsa Fede Mori, Ryderdow and Chiquita at the point scorers. Matt ahead of Milan Diorsi. Predestinati with a puncture, ending their podium chances early. Lifeboat White Sheep, Legion not Barlow Luke. And Lucas, the 5 drivers who failed to see the checkered flag. I'm going to bring myself back up on screen because I haven't as yet sorted out Ewan's camera, so it would just be a blank screen. So we're gonna go to the calendar first to discuss what's been going on. But a great race, and if we look at what's coming up, we could be in for some more interesting ones, especially Imola in a week's time, because we don't know what that's going to be like with the 26 cars.
Yeah, definitely. Imola is going to be really interesting because, yeah, like you said, we haven't actually seen it yet. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. Of course, it's been a great season so far. We've had some really good fights between the drivers, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the drivers compete in Imola. Of course, there could be weather like we've seen in Austria as well. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But it's been a pretty fantastic season so far.
Austria delivering as it usually does. Now we're both on the screen. Well, for the first time tonight, commentary corner is now full. But yeah, Austria never ceases to disappoint us. It just works so well, doesn't it? Even in the battery era, there's so many games playing. I didn't think we'd see so many late braking moves as well. You know, that was more akin to what we would have seen previously when overtaking was harder and drivers had to go for the moves under braking to work their way through the train. So it was really nice to see what felt, at least externally, like a little bit more of a return to some pure fighting rather than just the flip-flopping of battery management.
Yeah, definitely. We saw the battery didn't really play much of a fight in those fights. So yeah, it was good to see some pure fighting, and of course the rain late on really brought some mix and really rewarded with drivers with good strategy and good experience. Volokongan, your former champion, making that call with the experience he has, and it really gave him some really good points in the podium, so he's going to be really happy with that. It was looking good for Cadillac as well. They were looking so good, but ended up 6th in a puncture, which ended in a retirement. So yeah, some drivers and some teams making the right call, some teams making the wrong call. That is pure racing, and it was good to watch.
Absolutely. Maybe a 3-horse championship race, maybe a couple of others getting involved. We'll have to wait and see when we reconvene in a week's time for the I don't know if it's still called this. What was it? The Della Roggia Emilia Romagna something made in Italia Grand Prix, also known to everybody else as Imola, and that'll be fascinating. High-speed circuit, overtaking difficult, but maybe with the battery it might actually improve some of the action. We'll have to wait and see. But thank you everybody that's still here to listen to us waffling right at the very end. Thank you for joining us on the return of our Monday Eve madness. And finally, Ewan, where can people find you on an internet if they want to see what you're up to?
Ewan_F1 on TikTok and just Ewan Talks F1 on Instagram.
Get involved in that one, everyone. If you're interested in what I'm doing, Wilco.com's Instagram and TikTok. But thank you, everybody. PC returns, of course, later in the week, and we're not far away either from PSGL PC F1, the top tier. That'll be returning, I believe, next week on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that very shortly as well. But until next time, we will see you in a week's time for the, what are we calling it? The Imola Grand Prix? That doesn't sound quite right. But we're racing at Imola, which we might be doing to round out 2026 as a whole with what's going on in the world. So a good way to lead into that, perhaps. But we will see you very soon